Hello and welcome to the Olfactive Melbourne podcast. I'm your host, Trent Stokes.
And I'm Robyn Stokes. We're a husband and wife team passionate about perfume, and we're on a journey to better understand and explore the art of perfumery. We're coming to you today from Melbourne, Australia, and we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're recording. They are the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to the elders, past and present, and we extend that same respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening to the recording today.
On this show, we interview Australia's premier niche, artisanal and indie perfume brands. From the founders to the perfumers and on to the creatives who take us on a guided journey through a fragrance that best represents their brand. The show is wrapped around a masterclass in which we invite our guests to take us through each stage of the opening, the heart, and the base. The show unfolds in real time, meaning that there is time in between the opening and the heart and the base. And this is known as the dry down. During the dry down, we take the opportunity to deep dive into the perfumer's journey, their brand, their mission, their vision, their values, along with getting a better understanding of some of the technical terms in perfumery, along with how to identify individual notes and accords so that we can more deeply connect with perfumery, and also so that we can better identify the notes that we like and dislike. This allows us to make more informed decisions about the fragrances that we connect with and that we ultimately wear. The show is designed to be both educational and entertaining. So if you like what we do, please like and subscribe and make sure to sit back, relax and enjoy the show. The Olfactive Melbourne podcast is proudly sponsored by Watchvault, Australia's premier destination for luxury and vintage timepieces. Each watch is trusted, verified and ready for its next chapter. Visit watchvault.com.au to discover your next timeless investment.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Olfactive Melbourne podcast. Today we are joined by Mace and Maryka Malano, the Tasmanian duo behind the brand Milano. Milano is a luxe, wellness and scent brand where nature, design and craftsmanship come together beautifully. They hold the belief that scent can enhance mood and can brighten up the dullest of days. Welcome to the show, Mace and Maryka.
Thank you, and thank you for having us.
Hello, and thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity.
So just to kick off the show today, it'd be wonderful to hear from you. Whereabouts exactly in Tasmania you're based? How long has the brand been around? And what does the brand encompass today?
Okay, so we're based in Honeywood, which is 25 kilometres from Hobart, which is set in a beautiful bushland. So we're always surrounded by different trees and plants.
And how long has Milano been established for?
It's been established for 8 years now. We officially started in the first 2 years of that, doing a lot of experiment and handing it out to my clients in the salon and just friends and family. So 8 years is how long we've been going for, but officially launched 2019.
So when we first started, Macy wanted to have candles made. She wanted to make candles. And in 2015, I Macy a candle kit for Christmas and said, knock yourself out, start creating.
And then from there on, I just started experimenting, fell into the love of candles, especially making my own. I always wanted to brand something from a young child, and I always thought it was going to be fashion, and who knows, still could be. But I started obviously in the candle arena, and then a little bit of time down the track, which took a good while to perfect the scents, as there's particular wicks, etc., to set the right scent. Maryka had an accident, so she fell down a flight of 3 meters of stairs and split her disc. So that was a 2-year recovery. So in that 2-year recovery, we got to the point where Maryka was feeling really toxic with the medications that she was on and became very heavily reliant on those. So from there on, Maryka created her pain cream to get her off those medications, which was great. And then from there on, we started creating non-toxic skincare and then perfume. Yeah, so it sort of went from there.
Perfume was always in our list, but I always wanted to do perfume that had a long aging process. because I'm all about the maturation of oils and botanicals. There's a lot of modern perfumery that you can just mix it up, put a few chemicals together and put it out. And Macy and I have talked a lot about keeping it as low toxic as possible. We didn't want to use ingredients that would cause other health problems for people. So we're always very cautious to stick within limits of what a particular oil you should use. So that was the beginning. It was kind of like that. It's how it all started in that sense. I always wanted to make perfume as a youngster. My mum was into oils and she used to mix essential oils. She was a herbalist. She did a lot of stuff. She was more of an alchemist. And so I learned from a very young age how to blend things, what to do. And then it was more about formalizing once I had the injury, that recovery period. I went through a lot of psychological trauma. And then over that time, I said to Macy, I need to find out a way of getting myself back into the workforce, working for myself and providing a product that I'm very satisfied with and happy with and pursuing my passion. And scent has always been one of my passions.
Milano is more than just a perfume
Absolutely.
range.
Yes.
So you've got a broad range of different products. Do you want to take us through what are all the different categories of products that Milano currently produce?
Well, we have perfumes. I wouldn't say the number one thing originally what we wanted to have, but it's kind of become our big focus in that's the arena we really want to expand in. And everything else is great. We love it, but we really want to be known for perfume. But we also have skincare. So we do a couple of different ranges with that. We have a seaweed range and a signature range. We have home scent. So we have aroma diffusers, interior sprays. We also have essential oil collection for people in absolutes, which because there's a lot of people that like those. We do have the candles, of course. That was our Macy's first love.
And we also do
yeah.
have our ritual kits as well.
Yes.
So
yes.
our ritual kits are based on Maryka's background from early, probably as young as 3 or 4.
Yeah, very young. Yeah.
So very much into that mystical practice.
Yep.
So our ritual kits entail like blessings. So it could be a personal thing or something you want to pass on to someone else. It could be spiritual enhancements where you want to expand on your spiritual enhancement. There's cleansing. Sometimes there's negative energy around, or it could be negative vibe or people around that you want to try and protect yourself from. So there's about 7 kits there that help with a full round of things that can go on in someone's life.
So we've got like health and wellness as well,
Yeah.
like health and well-being.
Yeah.
So things like that because
Grief.
Yeah, grief.
Grief's a big one.
I think in life that for me, and I know that you do this as well, is that everything in life there's something bigger than us, and we work our business, and I'll delve a little bit more into this later when we talk about philosophy. We delve a lot into mystical practice, and Milano as a business follows the mystical practice of Hermeticism as we do in our personal life. And I think it's important to mention that because when we make scent has been around for ever since the dawn of time. And I think people underestimate the value of scent in their life. And even, you think about religious practice and spiritual tribal practices, they all use scent or some kind of smudging, smoking. The Aboriginals, indigenous of many continents, all had a smoking ritual that they used to do. And we have done those. And when we were featured in Australian Geographic, we actually did a smoking welcome ceremony with the photographers. And, they found that very interesting coming from white people. And we've also done a ceremony with one of the businesses in Hobart. And that ceremony that we did was a wellness ceremony, a blessing ceremony. And we had an Aboriginal lady present, and she said it was one of the most powerful ceremonies that she'd ever witnessed from a non-Aboriginal person. And that was because a lot of Macy and myself, we do the work, we put in the effort, we put the time in to do those ceremonies and everything that goes with those ceremonies. So it's a very integral part of our business.
And it is absolutely fascinating. We absolutely love this. We know, I've done a fair bit of research on perfume as well. We know that perfumery is probably as old as mankind. As far as recorded history, it's at least many thousands of years old. We know that archaeologists have unearthed thousands and thousands of bottles of perfume from around ancient Egypt. But we know that it extends obviously far back from there. And it's just always been a part of our human history, an integral part of our everyday. I think maybe we do become a little bit disconnected from that in modern day life. And sometimes we don't quite know what's wrong and what's missing, but quite often it can actually be that connection with one of our key senses, which is scent.
Well, the great thing about scent is that it works through the limbic system in the brain, and you probably already know this, the amygdala, which is one of the glands in the brain. That's the part that gets triggered by scent when it comes to trauma or happiness or any kind of memory. So it unlocks that frequency in the brain through the amygdala gland. And the amygdala gland is connected to the hippocampus, which is about your learning and memory. So when you have an emotion, which scent can bring, like say you smell something and it reminds you of, say, a grandparent that you didn't like. I've heard a lot of people say they hate lavender because their nan wasn't very friendly or nice. And then I've heard people say they love lavender because they had loved their nan. Okay. And then, so when you think about scent in that way, a lot of people don't relate it to the fact that it's the trauma they have from that bad relationship has been activated through the theta frequency, which is activated from the olfactory system. So it goes into the amygdala. That memory is opened up through the theta frequency, is one of the frequencies of our existence. And then it goes through the hippocampus and you remember, and it's a learnt behavior. So you can actually rewire your brain with scent as well. Do you believe in or understand the idea that scent has a frequency? So flowers and things have a frequency and plants have a frequency. There's not a lot of research being done on it, and there's very few sources where you can actually prove this. I believe it because of my spirituality, but I believe absolutely everything on the planet has a frequency, and that includes plants, people, animals. And I think that everything that has its frequency has its own unique signature to that frequency. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the reason that rose is so amazing for the heart is because it's one of the flowers that resonates at one of the highest frequencies, which moves into the love frequency. And then you have other plants that, they resonate in a different frequency. So the higher the frequency, the more loving and the more compassion and grace. So when you create a scent, when we create scent, I come from that perspective of, I don't just put things together and hope it smells good. I think of it as a composition. So I believe in that each of the frequencies that the plants have brings that element to the composition. And I've noticed with a lot of people that try our perfume, they actually react in a different way to what they do when they just smell regular perfume that's, the sort of the everyday stuff. And there is a difference.
Yeah, sometimes they can't answer why
Yeah.
they are so drawn to that scent. They can't even sometimes pick up the scent in it, but for some unknown reason, they go, oh my God, this just makes me feel amazing. It's not normally what I wear, but I feel great. Right. And I know it's the frequency.
Yeah, because I put a lot of
That's
love and energy into my work.
I love this so much. And I could just curious to know, do you think that we can train ourselves to be more in tune with the frequencies?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
And the only way to do it is quiet time. So meditation, quiet time, and being in nature. When we go down, and this is just off the track, but one of the things I do when we go and take our cats for a walk is I always hug the tree at the front of the yard. And we've got a massive big gum tree, and I always go and touch it and say, you're just so amazingly beautiful. And I feel that when I go down there, I have this relationship with this tree. Sounds a bit cookie, I know. But I just feel that so much respect because, a lot of people think of trees, oh, we just chop it down or whatever. But I have a different level of respect for trees and animals and plants and the environment.
I feel like since I've been diving into this perfume journey, that my respect for plants has developed. I was just saying that to you just the other day, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Because now I'm so much more curious and I actually want to explore all of that botany a lot more than I ever did before.
Obviously, you're located in Tasmania. We're here in Melbourne. You've already sent us through the fragrances, but nobody can see which fragrance we're going to be exploring. So before we pull this one out and start to spray it out, which fragrance have you decided to feature on today's masterclass, and why have you chosen that particular fragrance?
So we've gone with Cigar Whisky. And the reason we went with that one is because it's one of our most complex scents in the cigar range. I said to Macey, the reason I really like this one is because it is very different. I've used aged whiskey, actually real aged whiskey in American oak barrel. I've also used some whiskey molecule, which has been made by a chemist, which is our most expensive ingredient. And I think when you see the price of the cost of our perfumes and you realize the cost of the raw ingredients and how much work goes into it, it kind of it makes people understand that it's not just expensive because of the brand, it's expensive because of what's in it. And just to give you an inkling of what I mean by that, one of the molecules I use is 81,000 a kilo, and that is for whiskey. That is in the whiskey one. So it's a lot of money. And the reason that that one is our most expensive. And when I created this one, the cigar collection in itself was created out of my love of spice. And when I open the drawer, Macey always says, "Oh my God, I love the spice drawer." And spices for me are always reminiscent of my mum, who was a chef, and she was an alchemist, but she was a chef. And that's when I did my training. When I left school, I became a chef, and I always loved spices. It's one of the things I really love to cook and still do. So the cigar collection didn't come with a lot of story behind each individual. It was more about the love of spice and how can we twist every bit of spice in a different way. And I just, when I picked whiskey, I said to Macey, I really want whiskey because I just think it is so complex when you smell it. It's, if you let it sit, it smells different in 30 seconds. And then it's like an olfactory story. Another 30 seconds passes and it's different. But there's, like 40 oils in it.
So this week we are abandoning our usual blotters, and we have adopted the beautiful Milano blotters that come with the Discovery Sense here. Of course, we're going to use these ones. Yeah. Fantastic. Can you give me a spray on my skin as well?
Sorry.
So just for those people who are listening rather than watching, we always spray on our skin and on our blotters. We want to get a really well-rounded experience of the fragrance. Fragrance does interact a little bit differently on our skin than it might on the blotter. We're all going to get the same experience, obviously, on the blotter, but we might get a slightly different experience on our skin. Now, just before we break down the opening notes here, this is an educational podcast, and so we just want to take a moment just to explain what opening notes are. So if we think about opening notes, part of what we call the perfume pyramid. Perfume pyramid is just exactly as you might imagine it, and we'll put it up on the screen for you now. It's a pyramid shape with our opening notes sitting at the very top of the pyramid. It's the smallest section of the pyramid. And effectively what opening notes are the lightest and most volatile of the fragrance molecules. So effectively all that really means is that the molecules will surface in the fragrance first, but they'll also dissipate the fastest, right? So they'll start to make way for the other sections of that perfume, which are the heart notes, which sit right in the center of the pyramid, and then the base notes that sit at the very bottom. Now, we explain perfumery in terms of a perfume pyramid, but it is a very basic way to explain perfumery. Not all perfumes will unfold in that sort of linear manner, and perfumes can be a little bit more complex. We can start to smell heart notes a little bit earlier. Quite often, some fragrances will bounce up and down through that pyramid, but just for the basics of explaining an opening note, that's the way we envision our opening notes there. So with all of that explained, let's have a smell, and then you can explain to us what we're actually smelling here in the opening. Beautiful.
So tobacco leaf. Now, when you smell tobacco leaf, you can get, I don't always use tobacco leaf in the top. Sometimes I use it in the middle, but in this particular one, I cut it back and put it in the top. And the reason I did that was because of the heart notes. In the heart notes, we'll talk about that later, but that'll all make sense when we talk about the heart notes. There's also hickory in there, which hickory is something that I really love because it's got that smokiness. So I chose that and green mandarin. And the green mandarin, and by the way, just on and off side, there's also bergamot in it. Some people call it bergamot or bergamot, whatever your interpretation is of the word. But I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but bergamot is one of the most common used top notes because it is so pleasing to the majority of the population because of its chemistry. So bergamot has a delightful chemistry with its what you call compounds or constituents. So the chemistry of bergamot is pleasing to most people because of the way it's interpreted in the brain. A lot of plants have hundreds of, phytonutrients and the chemistry, but what you'll find is that majority of perfumers will use bergamot. I use that with green mandarin to give it that little green edge in the top. So it gives you brightness, it gives you that volatility, gives you that crispness and refreshing sort of note that adds to the sort of grassiness of the tobacco. It's that tobacco leaf's a little bit different to tobacco flower, and there's different types of tobacco leaf. We use an absolute, and an absolute is quite different to using an accord or an aroma chemical of tobacco.
So when we talk tobacco leaf, I sort of imagine a couple of different things when we talk tobacco leaves. So the leaves that you might find inside of a cigarette smell quite different to
They do.
the leaf that you might find wrapping around a cigar, for instance. Now, I think there's probably a little bit of a clue here in that this is from the cigar range. So I'm assuming this is a cigar tobacco leaf that we're referring to. Would that be
That's
correct?
Yeah.
We do see a bit of tobacco in different fragrances. We see the cigarette type tobacco. We do see the cigar tobacco. How might you differentiate those two smells in, when you compare, say, cigar tobacco to a cigarette tobacco? How do they smell different?
I think cigar tobacco to me is a lot more spicy. It's a little bit more smoky. Tobacco, and I do use I don't know if you're aware of the species, but the tobacco species is the Nicotiana one, where its Latin is Nicotiana and the English is Nicotiana. So it's the tobaccum. And so when you're using the absolute, it's quite thick, like it's a real thick, dark brown. And the reason I use that, even though it's cigar, because when most people think of cigar, most people think of a smoky spice. And then you've got all of the different nuances that go with that as well. So for me, I think when I wanted to do the cigar range with the whiskey and that sort of tobacco, I wanted it to be a little bit different to what most people would conjure up tobacco. I'm a little bit different to how people would conjure up things, even other perfumers. I work very differently. So when some people hear the word cigar, they immediately think of that smoky tobacco, like that, I don't know, a bit ashy, I suppose.
Yeah.
When I smell this, that's not what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to achieve more of the spice, like that kind of thing.
How does the hickory then bring out that spiciness? Because I think hickory is perhaps a little more unusual to me as a note. I haven't seen it in that many fragrances. Maybe this is the first time
I don't think
even.
I've seen it in any, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So-
Hickory is kind of like, it's a bit reminiscent of guaiac wood and vanilla, a bit with cinnamon. So you've got those, and it's a bit smoky. So when you smell it, it's got that kind of smoky wood, goes with leather really well. So it's that kind of smell. So it's that kind of smoke. You know, when you walk past and there's a fire and you've got a nice little campfire and you've got that really pleasant smoke and it's got the woods and the leaves and it's a beautiful smell. That's what we're trying to achieve. It's that beautiful mellow. It's a bit of vanilla-y as well. So hickory is kind of a nice balancer. It's not just one thing or another. So if you have smelt guaiac wood on its own, you can sort of understand that it's kind of smoky guaiac wood, vanilla, cinnamon, that type of thing. That's what hickory is.
Yeah. I mean, I've had, obviously hickory smoked
Ham,
bacon
hickory
and hickory
ham,
smoked
yeah.
ham and those type of things. I had it infused, but no, I haven't had it in a fragrance before that I can recall.
It's kind of like a smoked wood, really.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
makes sense, yeah. And then obviously the mix of tobacco and citrus is also unusual.
With citrus, it contrasts beautifully with the tobacco because when you have something that's opposing, you often can blend that together with something else that holds it. It's kind of like when we think of citrus, we get volatile, we get bright, we get refreshing. That sparks that part in the brain. But when we get tobacco, we get the other end of the spectrum where it's warm, it's grounding, so it kind of creates its own story within itself. A quick sparkle of citrus moves into a slow story and a grounding of the tobacco. So it then becomes story in itself. It creates its own journey to the wearer.
Yeah, so how do you want the wearer to feel on the first sort of spray?
Sophisticated, mystified. I want them to feel like they've got to think about it and something provocative is happening. It's non-linear to a degree. It's one of those scents that does bring you to question what is in this. I think it's quite a complex scent. When I smell it, I go, oh, I've just got a whiff of something else, or hang on, there's something, when I smell things, I take the time to notice the differences and the differences I'm feeling when I smell those things.
And it's generally the sophisticated gentleman that comes up to
Yeah.
one. You'll notice that the millennials will come up and it doesn't resonate with them as much, but then someone very sophisticated, well-dressed, the first one he'll pick up out of the 20 perfumes on that shelf is that whiskey.
Yeah.
And when he smells that, he almost shapes himself, square shoulder, head back. Yeah, that's me.
That's the kind of response we
I
get.
got that yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a James Bond type of
Yes.
smell.
Very
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah, it's
So our two ranges are
definitely.
completely different, you see. Our scents collection is all about story and mysticism. So stories about people, mysticism. Our second collection, Cigar, is all about spice. And what we've discovered is that a lot of the stories are now unfolding. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a living story.
People are telling their story by when they smell it. So when they try it on their skin compared to the card, they walk away for 5 minutes and we're watching them in front of us and they're walking around and we're watching their facials and how their body changes. And then he might just sort of go, wow, to his, his wife or partner. And you could just watch it and that tells us the story.
Yeah, so we're actually finding that the cigar is an evolving story for our journey.
Absolutely.
And what we found in the beginning is that we had the stories, but now this one's a different collection and we're enjoying others sharing their stories. So it's the other way around for us this time.
It's so cool,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
really cool.
When I wear this, it's me in a suit. So I'm in a black suit, pin, beautifully pressed, my stilettos, and that's me in that whiskey. That's how it makes me feel as feminine. So it's not necessarily masculine or feminine, it's quite unisex. But more of the masculine tend to come, are more interested in it. But as a female, we've also had some females love it. But more for the males.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call out here is that this is it's not a masculine fragrance. It's not a feminine fragrance. It is this is definitely a unisex fragrance that just, all fragrances, they lean one way or another. It's just maybe leans a bit more, that masculine, but it's, very, very versatile.
Yeah, I'd say genderless.
It's absolutely genderless, yeah.
Yeah.
We both wear this. Absolutely glorious. Beautiful opening, I've got to say. This is very, very unique. I haven't actually smelt anything like this before, and we've smelt quite a lot of fragrances. So this is very, very unique.
Yeah. I said to Mace, it makes me feel a bit nervous because you guys have experience with a lot of scent. And so when you have that experience with scent, it's like, even though I'm a maker, it still makes me feel a little bit nervous because, you like people to like what you create.
Yes.
Right. And that's just me being honest. I really like it when someone enjoys what I make because I make it from the fact that I love making it. So it means a lot when someone enjoys it.
So, well, you can certainly park those nerves because we love this. We think this is gorgeous. We think this is gorgeous. And you know what? What we have found on our own fragrance journey is that understanding the philosophy behind the scent, behind the house, the story or the note that we're trying to champion, getting context around the fragrance can actually help you enjoy it a little bit more because you connect with it a little bit more deeply rather than it just be a smell or a set of smells that are coming together. I'm identifying with the fragrance and you've given us a really good understanding of the fragrance. And so it just helps us connect with it on a slightly different level, which is, again, why I would really encourage our viewers and our listeners to get hold of this discovery pack. And we'll show you how to do this later on in the episode. We'll go through the details of how you get hold of Milano's fragrances. Let's go back to where we sort of started in the podcast where we were talking about your background. So we've already got a little bit of a sense of where you've come from, but what I'd like to do is let's go all the way back. All right. So let's go all the way back to childhood because my understanding is that that's where fragrance started with both of you, was in your childhood. So take us back to what's some of the earliest memories that you've got of perfume in your lives?
Well, for me, I grew up next to a bush. So we were forever getting scents of the gum, the saps. I used to always play with sap. It used to be gooey and roll it in my hands. I spent a lot of time with my mum. So my mum was hearing impaired and there was 5 of us and mum and I just had a long time by ourselves. So mum and I'd always go walking through the park and through the bush. So you had to go through our bush to get to the park, which was up on a reserve. And I would always be pulling leaves off trees and smelling them, or I'd go up and smell them. So that's my first memory of scent as a very young child. Where from there? Oh, my mum loved perfume. Everyone always bought my mum perfume. So then I used to sneak in to her room and I'd always put her perfume on and it was always a musk. It was always musk. It was. And obviously mum cooking a lot as well. So there was a lot of scent in the kitchen as well when mum was cooking. Yeah. So I sort of grew up around that bush sort of a smell, that earthy.
So very early scent memories.
Yeah, that's probably the earliest scent memory I can think of.
And I can see already from the discussions that we're having that a lot of your scent memories revolving around mum.
Yes.
So I think, Maryka, you mentioned before that you referred to mum as an alchemist. What do you mean by that?
Well, an alchemist is a person, the traditional alchemists in the old days, they used to convert metals and turn it into what would be called gold, even though it wasn't gold. Alchemists back in the days in past were people like wizards who would make things out of the earth. And it's all about converting something that you have and turning it with lots of different singular items and then making something beautiful. So alchemy to me, and mum always taught me that it doesn't matter what you do in life as long as you give it your heart and soul and you're converting something simple into something beautiful. So it's not that trees and things are simple, it's that, my earliest memories of being creative were out in the garden. Mum would say, right, go out into the garden and pick some things like, leaves and flower petals and bark and things like that. And she'd say, come inside and we'll turn it into something else. So we'd get a board and then I would put the leaves on there and make things and stick it on. And so it'd be like an art piece, but it was made with things outside. And there was always a lot of scent in my house. Mum was into incense. She had perfume. Dad wore perfume. So my dad was like this spicy, Old Spice, if you remember Old Spice.
I remember Old Spice.
Yeah, right. And mum was always mum was very much into different philosophies. She had been into yoga and Buddhism and Hare Krishnas at one stage, and mum went through all this sort of stuff. So I learnt, from a very young age to be open-minded and to create and delve into things, be adaptable. So there was always scent in our house and I always loved it. It always made me feel good. I remember the lavender bushes. I remember all the different plants that mum would have, roses, geraniums, all those sorts of things, daffodils. And, mum would make things. She would pick the lavender, make lavender oil. And I remember the day that my sister and mum were in the kitchen and mum made this really potent lavender oil and then they're drinking it. It's like, oh my God, my sister said she could taste lavender for a week. She's birthing lavender for like a week. And we that. My sister works, just helps us out and she makes things. She said, do you remember when mum used to do this? So we talk about mum a lot because she was, very heavily into herbalism and plants and nature. So I got my love of mysticism from mum. Yeah.
All right. So we've got some very early sort of scent memories. We're in the garden, we're pulling things together. We've got mum who's an alchemist, encouraging that sense of exploration, and it sparked a bit of an interest. How did we go from there to moving towards that sort of perfume journey?
For me, I became a chef and I didn't love it. I love the cooking aspect and I love the smells of the food and everything, but I didn't love the pressure and the hours. So when I was late 20s, close to 30s, mum passed away and I moved back to Tassie because I had moved out of Tassie. All the time buying perfume, loving perfume. I just still always had that love for it, but I never ever thought I could pull it together. So I just sort of left it. I just was in the back of my mind all the time. I went into corporate jobs, went into working in prisons as well. Just wasn't me. But I tried to do some things that would, just to live, basically go to work, live. But I also tinkered in the background with making creams, had essential oil collection. I used to make my own little perfumes that oil based. And when I came back from living in Adelaide, so this was like 2005 because I moved there in the late 90s. I lived there for about 7 years. I worked in Perfume Connection and always won gold stars for my ability. I did a lot of training with them and they provided us with a lot of information and learning about perfume and how it's made and things like that. And so that sparked my interest even more, but I still never ever felt that I was in a situation where I could actually explore it in a commercial way. So I always just tinkered in the background with it. And then that was for many, many years. And then it was when I had my back injury that Macey and I spoke a lot about it. And I said to Macey, I would really still like to make perfumes in a commercial way. And after having that 2 years of being laid up, rehabilitation, it was always a dream of mine to bring perfume to life. But knowing myself how I was back then, I knew it was a time thing because I didn't want to use chemicals to just make it and put it out in 2 weeks. So the L'Essence collection, we started like 2009, 19, we got the ball rolling when we started at Salamanca, and we had to try and get funds in because back then we only started with a small budget. So the plan, we had a 5-year plan, right? And in that 5-year plan, we said, right, perfume's coming in, but we've got to plan it now for when we want that, because we have to start putting money back into the business, and then we need to buy more ingredients and build up the inventory. So it went from very small range and then putting all our money back in to build up our inventory so that we could get all the ingredients in. So it went from being on paper as a plan to then the real life. But the L'Essence collection is cured for 9 to 12 months, and the cigar collection was 15 to 18 months. So it was cured over, the mother scent was cured over a very long time. And it was because I had to make sure that I was happy with the end result, with the tweaks on each of the scents. That is why you get such a complex, the complex olfactory story with the scent, because when you smell it, you can smell that it's complex. And that's purely because of the time I put into that curing period. And then I would tweak. So every month I smell it and then I tweak it. And then I go, no, I'm not happy with that. Put something, okay, another month will pass. Okay, I'll tweak that. So it was the whiskey took nearly 18 months to get out.
You really need to you have to plan quite far in
Yeah.
advance.
We're already planning the next 5 to 10 years. So we've already got that on paper.
All right, well, before we move forward into the future, let's just take another step back. So the unfortunate accident that you had, that was the catalyst to step into perfume as a business. So I guess at what point did you say, okay, let's create a company based on our last name and take it out to the world? What was that moment? Just take us back.
Do you want to share that?
Yeah.
Go for
So
it.
we went through a lot of business names, and we had some hilarious ones now when I think back what we had listed. And we just sort of sat there and thought, how do we get people, because there's businesses everywhere all over the world. There is millions of them. How do we be unique? And the only way we could think of is actually personally use our name. How do we get people to trust us quickly? I mean, people that know us trust us anyway, because they know how I live and they know how Maryka lives. But using our name was going to be the quickest way to get people to trust us, because it's our name on the line of our brand. And we stick by everything we've said from the start, we're still doing today. And we'll never, ever jeopardize our brand for money, for recognition. It's who we are. So that's where the name Milano come from. Originally, how the name Milano started, though, is my surname. Milano was pulled from some letters from my surname and some letters from Maryka's surname, and then we came up with Milano and branded the name Milano. And then we changed our name by Depot well before we even branded the business, and then that's what we had to come about it.
Fascinating. We did not know that.
A lot of people know I love Italian. So a lot of people ask me, am I Italian? And obviously I'm not. I love Italian food. So I love pizza, pasta, garlic. I love it. So I just love Italian. I love Italy. I love the fashion. I love the leather. I love just the culture. So Milano resonated with me.
Fantastic. Well, we did not know this. And this is something we've learned. Now, probably good to explain to our viewers who might not be aware, but you've both got quite different functions within the Milano business. Maryka, you are primarily the perfumer?
Yep. I'm the chief maker. I formulate everything. Of course, I run everything by Macey to smell, and, we talk about it and how, you go, well, how is that going to come across? What do you think? What do you think people will think about this? Because it is good not to just be in my own head. We also have a creative designer that works with Macey. So I come up with...
We also use the salon as well.
I was going to say, Macey's customers, like her clients. So they're a very good, feedback system.
Just a little bit like the studio where Maryka crafts everything is actually next to my hair salon.
Yeah.
So there's a doorway through. So Maryka will run through with a little swatch and get my client to have a little smell and tell me what you think. So we get a lot of feedback from a lot of my customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're a big part of seeing our growth.
They're our family.
Like I've been hairdressing 30 years and been running the business now for 23 years. And I've had 3 generations of clients. They are family to me, and they know that. They're not just a client. I do this because, I love obviously hair, but I also love my relationships with them. So I really trust their feedback on when we're we're creating Milano products. So we give them samples to take home and try and give us some constructive feedback. And it's worked really well, like, because it's not just us and our team, it's outside of us as well.
Perfect way to get customer feedback.
So, Macey, your side of things is more of the marketing side.
Yes, marketing and the psychology around marketing. I love psychology and what makes someone go and pick that product up. So to me, visual, being a hairdresser, I'm super visual. I can pick out a letter that's out of sync. And then in the initial days, I was doing all the photography for social media. And because I'm so busy in the salon, then I was also helping Maryka grow and build the brand. I found that I just didn't have time and I wasn't loving doing the photos and the social media. So that's where we employed Tabitha full time. And so her and I work together. So it's really good because I go, Tabitha, I want this bottle. Okay, I want it to turn and spin up and then smoke go poof. I don't know how to do that. She does. So she's like, she can read me so well. Like I give her an idea and she throws ideas at me and like we just work so well together visually. But yeah, she can bring together anything I ask. She's amazing.
So we've got listeners from all parts of Australia. In fact, we've got listeners from all parts of the world. We've got people listening in America all the way through Asia, and they might not be aware of Salamanca, but you did mention it just before.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you actually went to market with Milano and where Salamanca sort of features.
So Salamanca Market is held every Saturday. It's one of the biggest markets that you have to hand make or use the majority of ingredients locally now. Used to be a kind of market that you could bring in things and just sell it, but you're not allowed to anymore. So that's where we started in 2019, and it's based down in the Salamanca Square in Hobart. Well, it's actually at the waterfront. So Salamanca operates every Saturday between 8:30 and 3. And that's where we do our trading. Macey and I go every week, and we have a third person that helps us because our stall is quite big. And that's our exposure point where we get to connect with the public so that I feel like if you have people work for you and you're not present, it doesn't have the same impact as when you're there as the makers or, and the team, like Macey and I. For us, it's been an excellent point of exposure.
So just for those people who aren't familiar with Australia or familiar with Tasmania, if you pop down to Tasmania as a tourist, the Salamanca markets are going to be one of those spots that you're going to be told don't leave Tasmania without going to the Salamanca markets. They are absolutely iconic. It's part of really the DNA of Tasmania. It's one of the many things that make Tasmania quite special. So you've got a stall, that's really where you started and connected with your public, and Milano has grown from there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have our online store. You have it all in the salon as well. And
We have a
we've
studio on our property as well.
we also are in sort of conversations with a couple of businesses about wholesale. When we do this type of thing with people, we'd like to connect with the person and build a relationship rather than just having it in a place for the sake of it. So when we have people approach us about having our perfume, we like to build a relationship with them first and understand them and have them understand us.
I think that's important. It's not just selling the perfume, they're caretaking the perfume. It's important that they're able to clearly communicate what the mission, the vision, the values of the brand are, so you can clearly articulate that to the audience, especially if you're handing it over to a third party. So yeah, completely understand that.
Yeah, 100%. This edition of Olfactive Melbourne is proudly brought to you by Silver Australia. Silver Australia design and shape their jewellery in their studio in Melbourne, and they're pleased to offer Olfactive Melbourne listeners 20% off when you use the code MASA20. So I'll just go back to the perfume pyramid very quickly just to talk about the heart notes, which form the center of the pyramid. And this is where the fragrance, the characteristic, the personality, the essence of the fragrance really comes into its own and blossoms. So we're looking forward to now hearing from you both about the heart notes, if you'd like to share those with us.
Right. So one of the things that's important about perfume, and Macey and I talk about this, is that sometimes people focus when they buy a perfume on the headline notes or what you call the top notes. We call them headliners because When you see our box, you'll see headliners, hearts, and foundations. That's our pyramid. We also have another layer in the pyramid called an evolving layer, and I'll explain that a little bit further down the track. But I always say to people, when you focus on the headlining notes all the time, when you buy a perfume, that's not always what makes your perfume unforgettable. What makes perfume unforgettable is the little twists and nuances that you have in it. So a lot of people come up and say, oh, I only love perfume that's got, citrus in it, or, I really like perfume that's got mandarin in it. Okay, but you can't have a perfume that's just got mandarin because it's not going to last. So heart notes are really great because they give us an opportunity to express the evolving and the base notes together. So we use a coffee in the whiskey, the coffee, the balsam, the cacao, and the leather. I also, which I'm not sure whether I explained to you or whether you know this, but we also use a bit of tobacco flower, which is very rare and expensive.
Oh,
I thought I'd throw that in.
All right.
See, wanted to give you a couple of surprises.
Getting some notes from the left field here. Okay.
Yeah, so when we do things, we don't put every single thing in because when we talk to people, that's when we throw the little surprises in. So when we express this to people at the market, they go, oh, on the box, you've got this, this, and this. Because on the back of our boxes, like the 50 ml boxes, you can see we've got the notes so that when people pick up the box, they can go, oh, we can have a read of what those major notes are. And people can relate to those notes, top, middle, base, right? So I always like to throw in a few little extras because I like to give your mind something else to think about. Tobacco flower to me is a beautiful, rare, just exquisite. So when you smell it, it changes everything.
So we're going to have to start at tobacco flower because this is this bit of a surprise. So can you describe for us what tobacco flower actually smells like?
It's kind of a bit greeny. It's not very sweet as such, but a bit grassy. So when you smell the flower, it's not like a rose. It's different. It's a bit more on the earthy side. A little bit sweet though. It's hard to explain because these are a very unique one. And the one we get is in from Italy, and there's not much. Tobacco flower is quite hard to get. So I don't use big amounts of it. It gives it that little twist. So if you smell it, you can actually smell a little bit of a grassy sweetness to it.
This is really fascinating. So tobacco flower, again, I just don't even recall ever
pink. It's a little
encountering
bit
this before.
Color. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got the tobacco plant, which has got tobacco leaves, and it's got a flower, does it?
Yeah, and they're very rare because they don't have a lot of flowers. It's a bit like when you see a cacti and it has a flower every now and then. It's not like there's heaps of flowers. They're like a bigger flower. They're about that big and they're pink and they've got like a little yellowy greeny through the center. Actually go and have a look. You'll see it's very different and it is exquisite, which, it's another reason why the whiskey is a bit more expensive because a lot of the ingredients that we use in it are.
So while we can't help our listeners here, we would suggest you Google it. We'll pop the tobacco flower onto the screen now so you can actually see what it is that we're talking about. I guess there's enough on the flower to be able to distill some essence out of the flower because a lot of the time these very, very small flowers can be very difficult to extract the fragrance from, and so then you develop an accord instead, but you're actually using the perfume oil from the flower.
Yeah, there's very, very small amounts. And when they do distill, I don't do this. I distill some ingredients off our property, which Macey will talk to you about after. But there's some ingredients that we get in from overseas from family farmers that do these really rare and unusual ones. And when you do get them, they are like little vials are really expensive. So we're talking like a drop or 2 drops or less than a gram. Like we're talking micrograms because when you're looking at having that in your inventory, we've got 1,500 ingredients. We've got a big inventory. So the reason I like to make those complex scents is because those little rare, exquisite oils just add a little bit of something that people go, I like it. I don't know what it is, but it's getting me interested. And that's all you need.
Absolutely. I think the reason why you have decided to choose this particular fragrance to showcase Milano is becoming more obvious, at least to me now, just because this is complex. And I think this really expresses how you approach perfumery, and we'll get into your perfume philosophy shortly, but let's explore the notes. You mentioned that this has got a sort of a green type smell to it. I guess what's it bringing to that blend of coffee and balsam and cacao and leather? How is it sort of balancing the rest of the heart out?
I think it softens like the leather. The cacao is like, in the French world, cacao is like food of the gods. Okay. So when you have cacao as an absolute, which we use an absolute, so it's quite thick and resinous, so you got to use it in a bit lower volume as well. But it adds that sort of bittersweet, particularly when you blend it with coffee. So the coffee I use is an Arabica, and that's a bit sort of bittersweet as well, but it's balanced off by the vanilla. So there is a bit of vanilla touch to it. So the cacao has a little bit of a vanilla touch. Because I can smell a little bit of vanilla in there. Can you see the vanilla coming through?
Yeah, on my skin.
And the tonka bean, like, smells a bit tonka beanish. Yeah. So the cacao gives it that sort of sweetness, touch of a bit more sweet.
Yeah, I definitely get the touch of sweetness, and the blend of the cacao and the coffee is very nice. I really like that.
Yeah, that's a nice classic sort of blend, I think. So
Mm.
with cacao, I've had a bit of experience with cacao in fragrance, because we love gourmands, so we get exposed to cacao a bit, but it can be expressed quite differently, just depending on what type of cacao that you're actually choosing. So most of my exposure has been starting bitter and moving to sweet, but sometimes you can start sweet and move to bitter. What have you used here, and what are we experiencing as we're going through the dry down here with the
So with the
cacao?
cacao, it's an absolute, and to me, it starts sweet and goes a little bit on the light bitter side, but not too much. The balsam softens it, because when you mix balsam with cacao, it softens the bitterness a little bit. And the balsam that I use is not probably a balsam that a lot of other people use. I don't know. I can't say that, because when you buy perfume, it has balsam. It could be a dozen different balsams, right? So I
Yep.
use a poplar balsam. It's a Canadian balsam. And have you come across that before?
Okay.
No.
No.
Okay.
So from the poplar tree,
Yeah, so
I'm
it's a
assuming.
poplar. So
Yeah.
it's the Balsamifera populus is the species, grown in Canada. And traditionally, the balsam from Canada was made into a balm called the balm of Gilead, and it was a salve that was used for injuries and things like that. So it's a healing salve. But the great thing about balsam is it's a great fixative, and being the poplar, it actually adds that depth and tones down your coffee and your cacao. So that's why I use that in there.
Does the healing component play a factor in terms of the overall composition, or is it more just its fixative value?
I'm always thinking in terms of active constituents in perfume. So when you, the one thing about essential oils and absolutes, when you construct a perfume made of those, you've got to understand the chemical or the healing components, being the medicinal compounds. So when you make a perfume, sometimes if you don't know all about the compounds and their phytonutrients, you might not see all of the actives as having a medicinal characteristic. And the problem with that, if you don't understand that, is that sometimes you can produce something that could end up as an endocrine disruptor for some people. So things like clary sage, we don't actually use a real clary sage when we make perfume. We use an accord or what we call an isolate. And the reason that we use isolates is because they don't have the medicinal constituent inside. They actually get extracted. Now, I'm not smart enough to do that. I'm not a chemist in that way. I'm understanding it as I'm learning, because I'm studying to be a naturopath. So I'm understanding chemical constituents a lot more in, that breadth and depth of how plants operate. So when you think of a plant, some have so many constituents in it, or what you call active ingredients, like aloe, for example. There's over 400 compounds in it, but 75 compounds are only active. The rest of the compounds are like inert. So when I get oils in, I get all of the certificates of analysis to see what the chemical compound construction is. So I know the quality of what I'm getting by the compounds. So when you're using something like balsam, we don't always get the certificates of analysis with some specific ones, because they don't always get broken down. But I can have learnt over the years to tell by the smell of it. And that's the same with essential oils. When you go to shops and you buy essential oils, you need to smell them, but it takes you a while to understand whether you're getting something adulterated or not. And with balsams, it's a lot harder to tell, because they're a lot harder to break down. So with the balsam I get in, I do know I did get the certificate to say that it was from there, but they didn't do the analysis of the chemical construction of it. So when I smell it, I know the particular balsam I use every time I get it. It's pretty similar. It's pretty much the same because it's from the same company. And I do tend to try to use farms that are family farms or farms that, they support local communities around the world for that economic development. So we're very heavy in our business involved in economic development and sustainable projects around the world to help build those economies in those tribes. Getting back to balsam, but balsam does have a healing component. And yes, we do try to use those within our perfumes because I believe that when you're using perfume, it does enhance a person if it's done correctly. So when you have a perfume that's all synthetic, that's fine because that's your thing. I think synthetic comes back to who makes it. And I'm going to go into a little bit more depth about that when I talk about philosophy, because I think that's really important to understand that there are some negative tendencies out in the public about synthetics. But what people don't understand is that synthetic is still made by somebody. And the key is who is making that synthetic makes all the difference.
Absolutely. And, we do spend a fair bit of time on this show trying to dispel myths about synthetics and myths about naturals as well. We know that there is a little bit of a movement out there to sort of demonize synthetics and make sort of claims around synthetics automatically being associated with things like, endocrine disruptors and other sort of nasties out there. But the story is not quite that simple. So let's definitely have this conversation because I think it's important to educate the broader public on these items and the place that IFRA plays in all of this regulation as well.
Yeah. Well, before we do move on, though, let's just quickly touch on the leather.
So this kind of leather, I feel, is a bit powdery. It's more suede-y. You could get a bit of a crossover into a more richer leather, but it doesn't have that twang of a lot of the leathers I use. I have the leathers that are real twangy, like the real strong, rich, dark, and that real leathery hide sort of smell, but I also have the soft suedes. And some of our leathers are somewhere in between as well. So I do use a lot of different leathers as well.
Cool. And just lastly, like with these materials that we've been talking about, have any of them been particularly challenging to work with, or is there? Tell us more.
Okay, so when you're using cacao and coffee with balsam, you do have a thick resin and you do get residue. So I don't know if anyone else you've talked to has talked about a process that we do. It's called fining and filtering.
No.
Have you ever heard of that term?
No.
Okay, so because Macy grows quite a bit of our plants, herbs and things that I do use, I have some different extraction processes that I do. And with that, I have to do a fair bit of what we call is fining. And the same thing happens when we buy raw ingredients that are quite thick and resinous, or they leave. Have you ever worked with benzoin or seen benzoin? It's the same. It kind of goes sticky and leaves a residue. Some of the more thicky resins do, thick kind of resins. So I have this process of when I make it into perfume, so from the mother scent to the perfume with the alcohol, I use a special clay. It's a really fine clay. And I put that in the perfume and let it settle to the bottom. And it has to be done in a fridge for 24 hours. And the reason I do that is to remove all the residue, and that drops all to the bottom and takes all that out. So that makes the process just that other step that you have to do, fining and filtering, and then you have to filter it. So you have your bottle of your perfume, I use the big ambers, and then I tip the clay in. And then the clay, it's very fine powder, it moves through and it drags down all of the residue to the bottom, but it takes 24 hours. So the next day, you have to then filter it. So you remove it all, and then there's just all the residue left in the bottom, and then you have to filter it. So those particular items can be a little bit tricky to work with when you use anything thick like that.
So if you didn't do that process, you'd have bits sort of floating through the fragrance. Okay, isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Another term we have never heard of before. We're definitely expanding our knowledge base, aren't we?
We
Fantastic.
are. Yeah.
Fining and filtering.
Fining and
Fining and
filtering.
filtering.
All right, we're going to add that to the memory bank.
Indeed.
Fantastic. All right, so coffee, balsam, cacao, leather, and tobacco flower, which is our secret ingredient. It's really interesting that we don't always list all of our ingredients there. It's this is not that uncommon, is it, to not necessarily list every single ingredient there. There's a multitude of reasons that we don't do this. One is, this is your intellectual property, number one, and you've got to sort of protect your formulations. But two, not every note that is in the fragrance is something that you will necessarily detect as a standout note. They often support the other notes and help project those notes to the forefront rather than playing their own sort of part in the fragrance as well. So again, we are going through the dry down in real time, and we like to leave a good sort of half an hour to 45 minutes for us to go from the heart to the base, and it gives us plenty of time to sort of explore the broader range. But I think it's really important, particularly with Milano, before we have a look at the broader range, is that we do have a bit of a chat about your approach and your philosophy, because you do have a unique approach and a unique philosophy. So I guess the first question that we've got here for you is, what sets Milano apart in the world of niche and artisanal perfumery?
I think it's the spirituality comes in. It's understanding that I don't know how much you know about Hermeticism, but the first principle that we follow the 7 principles of Hermeticism in our personal life and our business. And the first principle is all is mind. So it's understanding that everything that was created ever is all in the mind of the creator. That's our philosophy. So we believe in a creator. Everyone has a different belief about a creator or a god or something like that. Whatever you want to call it, it's a force. So we believe that everything is in the mind. It's mental. So nothing is outside of the mind of the creator, meaning that no matter what is created, it's all still in the mind. There's nothing outside it. Yeah, so that makes us very different in our approach, because what we then do is we have an understanding that if all is in the mind, then everything that is created on the planet is within that, and we create from that space. So scent is quite subjective, because when you create a scent, people will either love it or hate it, but some people just only like one brand because they're loyal to that brand, and they won't explore anything else because they don't actually understand why they even like that brand. Most of the time, I feel lots of people are influenced by the big marketing budgets, not actually what the ethos or the philosophy is of that business. So I think that sets us apart, because we have a very different philosophy. I think also the richness of the quality of our ingredients, they're all very different. And I try to use, when I'm making something, things that, yes, they might go together, but I'll throw a few little twists in. But I don't stay with what I think is right, or that should be mixed with that and that shouldn't be. I like to stretch the boundaries, and I think that makes us a little bit different as well.
It more than makes sense. I think we can already see this in the way whiskey is unfolding and the note breakdown here. This is certainly not something that you would see from a big box fragrance at all. And I think, you did call out there that people can be a little bit unwilling to sort of stray from the mainstream or stray away from the brands that they know. But I think people who are viewing this show or listening to this show probably have a bit of a broader mind set when it comes to this stuff, more willing to explore. But what a disservice that you're doing to yourself if you don't explore, because you're missing out on these wonderful fragrances that you'll never get to experience because you can't sort of break out of that mold. So I would absolutely encourage everybody to step outside of the box and definitely experience fragrances like these ones from Milano, because they're very unique. And hey, you might not like everything. No one expects you to like absolutely everything. But what if you discover something here that you might not want to live without? And you will. You'll find those type of fragrances here in the Milano collection.
Yeah, and you get to, explore a fascinating brand. So why not? I was just also curious. I mean, we touched on this before about where you get your inspiration from. And you mentioned you've got the 2 collections, Le Scent and Cigar, and how they're almost on completely opposite, I guess, sides. One is inspired by storytelling, and then the other one was inspired more by a concept. So how do you draw from that inspiration, and what made you change from one collection to the other? And tell us a little bit about how you are inspired.
Well, for me, because we talked a lot about that, because Macy said, "Oh, what are you going to do next?" And I said, "I really, really want to do a spice collection." I love spice. And in the L'Essence collection, there are some spices, obviously, but it wasn't spicy enough for me, what I wanted to bring to the table. So I said to Macey, I think I'd like to call it cigar. And we talked about this for a long time. Macey's like, no, don't call it cigar.
We don't want
collection.
people to think it's okay to smoke.
No.
Yes, we don't encourage smoking, not at all, but it's more about the sophistication of, back in the days, Maryka Malano cigar, and then more twist of spice.
That's right.
Yeah.
We wanted to do more stories, and that's coming in the collections to come.
Yeah.
But I feel like the cigar collection was just my desire to do a spice collection, really. And now, as we said before, what we're learning is that there are stories coming from this now. A lot of people are loving story, but we didn't want to jump on the bandwagon and say, okay, let's do a story for everything, because that wasn't the truth about why we brought out spice. So we wanted to be honest about the fact that it was really just my love of spices, and we wanted to have something different to L'Essence. So it doesn't mean in future we never have stories. We try to be different in our own way, not what is expected. Because someone come to us and said, well, tell us your story. You've got to have stories for everything. What's your stories with your spices? You must have stories for those. And I went, but there's none. And they marketing person.
The spice is the story.
That's right. It's its own story. And I said, but honestly, I can't put a story to it when I honestly don't have one. And I didn't want to be dishonest. So I said to Macey, well, honestly, I wanted spices because I love them. And that's it. So that's the honest truth. And we do try to always be honest with why we bring things out.
But the stories are coming because people are creating the stories for those perfumes.
It's absolutely fine to not have a story. The way people approach the creation of fragrance is unique. So sometimes there's an ingredient that I want a hero, and I want to maybe change people's perception of a particular ingredient or a particular note. It could be that we're trying to capture a very particular place or a very particular time or a very particular emotion, rather than necessarily a story that's been woven in. There's lots of different ways in which we can bring perfume to life. This is the joyous thing about perfume. It's not just, well, no story, no perfume. It's multifaceted, the way in which we approach perfumery. So we've actually, we do have the opportunity to go through some of the collections, but just before we do, you mentioned before that you grow a lot of the ingredients. Is that right?
Fancy.
Yes. I love gardening. Who knows me knows I've always got my hands in the soil. So I grow a lot of flowers, herbs. I've just started planting yuzu trees. So I'm looking at a mini orchard of yuzu, because yuzu is quite rare and it's beautiful, sweet citrus. We actually do use that in our products as well. So it's not really an area that you grow yuzu in Tasmania, but once again, if someone says I'm actually going to give it a really hot go and try and grow these yuzu trees. So for next year, I'm actually building, because I actually do a bit of building too myself, so I can actually build, self-taught, and I'm building a big hothouse so I can keep this stuff all year round going.
I feel so lazy.
Me too.
Don't you? Hairdressing and building and horticulture and perfumery. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We've got two very talented people in front of us.
Absolutely.
All we can do is just ask questions. All right. So I think it's time to pull out some of the broader range. Now, you've sent us quite a lot, but we've got a couple that we sort of discussed that we were going to be going through on the show. Is there a particular spot you would like to start?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Mace,
Yep.
It is. Fantastic. And which collection is Mace from?
Sense.
Fantastic.
Which is our first collection.
All right. So this is the first collection, and this is the collection that has actually got stories attached to it. Right. So probably a good place to start. What is the story behind Mace?
I originally asked Maryka, I would love my own perfume made just for me.
So this is the Macy set.
Yeah, so this is the Macey ones. And it's funny, actually, at Salamanca, when I'm selling this perfume, people have that interest in it. But as soon as I tell them this story, and it was made for me, I'm Macey, and it's called La Mace, it's easy that they don't want to know anymore. They just want to buy it, which I don't know why. I can't still not work that out. And I haven't asked the question to anybody yet. Like, wouldn't you rather try it before you buy it? But anyway, they just buy it. And so I just said to Maryka, can you make my own scent and basically try and portray who I am in a scent? And then I left that all up to Maryka.
Yes, you did.
What are we actually spelling here in Mace?
Okay, so we have cardamom in the top, tobacco leaf, bergamot, and lime. In the hearts, we've got a lemmy, which is kind of citrusy, and rosewood. We've got oud in it, and also jasmine. Now, jasmine I always call the king of flowers. It's known as the king of flowers. The interesting thing about jasmine is it contains a pheromone, which is quite sensual and provocative. So in some of my scents that I make with jasmine, I also use a little bit of jasmine molecule called hedione. And that is like the scent molecule that's taken out that produces that sensuality. So I mix it up a bit. It's the sexiness of it pretty much.
And what have we got happening in the base?
So we have musk, leather, because Macey loves leather. But the honey, cedarwood, patchouli. The thing is with this leather, I think this leather I've used, it's a bit richer. It's a bit stronger than the whiskey one. The whiskey one's a bit more suede-ish. This is a bit rich and dark. It's more of that animal sort of scent to it, animalic.
So as this dries down, it gets deeper and darker.
It's a bit deeper. Yeah.
It's quite clean in the top here. It's quite fresh and clean. So it dries down and gets a little bit deeper, a little bit dirtier. So you've got that patchouli will add that bit of that earthiness. Yeah, fantastic. This definitely.
Well. So the musk adds that.
With a little bit of cheek.
That's right.
Nice.
The little bit of honey
Sweetens
it a little bit. Just takes that edge
that
off.
little dark edge off.
You know where they say, sweet and spicy, that kind of thing.
Beautiful. Well, I think it certainly sounds like it encapsulates you. So obviously we can't go all the way through and experience the dry down in real time here, but really good to understand that, starts nice and clean, moves into a more sort of dark and complex with a little hint of sweetness, because we're not all dark, Macey, are we?
That's right. And on our website, we've got an explore page where you can read the journal, and the journal's got a Licence story. So you can actually read what I've written about how I wrote the story, about how I could make a scent for Macey, about, a strong, independent woman. She's strong, she's independent and confident, but also vulnerable and sensitive. So I wanted a scent that brings out, like, Macey's also feminine, but she can also be strong and do some masculine activities. So I wanted the scent to encapsulate all of those parts of Macey's personality. So she's adventurous as well. So when you read the story, so you go into the journal section and read the story, it's called Licence, Why Licence? And the first few of the Licence, I wrote the stories in there. And then the second part is called The Beat Goes On, and the Licence story continues. As we release those, I had to continue what those stories were. If you're interested in understanding a little bit more about Macey, that's where that story sits.
So we'll put a link to the website up on the screen a little bit later in the show, and people will be able to go and visit and learn a little bit more. So just as we finish this one out, would you describe this as a male fragrance, female fragrance, unisex, or does none of that matter when it comes to Milano?
Definitely unisex.
Yeah, it is. But when you're on our website, have a look on there, because we've got a scent spectrum. And we've got feminine, masculine, and it's got 10 dots. And we filled in the dots to where we think things sit. I think, Le Mace does sit just above the unisex middle range. It's not totally feminine and it's not totally masculine, but I do think it sits in that
little bit more.
More in the masculine side. I think that the sharper leather gives it that little bit more, but we do have a lot of women that buy it and love it.
So it leans masculine.
Excuse me.
All right, so it's not a masculine scent. It just leans to the masculine edge of the,
I think
fantastic. Really beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful scent. I am looking forward to putting this on skin and going all the way through the dry down here, because it is quite complex. And like to get a little bit more insight as to where that goes. As we get down into the base, because it certainly sounds quite complex. And of course, I'd like to understand Macey a little bit more. So let's see where this one goes. We'll get to know her. Fantastic. All right. So which fragrance should we move on to next?
The other one, I think, maybe Rouge.
Rouge. Beautiful.
Rouge.
Let's do
now,
it.
this is Macey's favourite, believe it or not.
So Rouge is from the Cigar collection. So we know that with the Cigar collection, it's not about stories. It's about spice. So hit us with the spice.
Well, I'll tell you the spices: ginger, nutmeg, saffron.
Yeah, definitely getting the saffron. I'm getting that sort of saffron has a little bit of a it has a bit of a leatheriness for me. Saffron, when I smell it, that's what I'm sort of getting in the opening here.
Yeah. And the red grapefruit is a little bit different for a opener for me. I don't always use grapefruit. I use it in some things, but the red I thought would be nice in the rouge. So the red grapefruit gives it that sort of sweet, but a little bit bitter, but not too much. Sweet.
Again, you really unique combinations here,
Yeah.
Maryka. Saffron and red grapefruit. I don't think I've ever smelled that combination before. And it doesn't sound like it'll work. It works so well. It's fresh and spicy, and we're going to keep using this word.
It's quite unique.
It's
the
very unique.
opening is different for this one. As soon as I sprayed it, it goes into the air, which must be the saffron that does that, makes it feel airy. And then you get the lemmy. I feel like you can get that little bit of citrusy
I'm getting nutmeg.
pop. Yeah,
Nutmeg is in there,
nutmeg.
definitely. Yes.
Beautiful. Now, I think I can smell some stuff coming through from the heart here as well. A little bit like our previous fragrance, some jasmine coming through from the heart. But what have we got in the heart notes?
So we've got gardenia. Can you smell the gardenia coming through?
Yeah.
There's something beautiful floral that's coming through. Yeah.
White flower.
Rose.
Mm.
But I
Yeah,
put
definitely
in
getting the jasmine coming through. The rose is coming through as well.
raspberry. Geranium.
Raspberry.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I wanted to put a little twist in, so I put bay laurel in.
Bay laurel.
Bay laurel.
Bay
You have
laurel
to tell us more.
is very spicy, but it's herby. And the reason I wanted to put that in is because I wanted to keep that spicy herb sort of going. And this one is one of your, like this Rouge is one of those scents that you wear and you'll get inappropriate comments sometimes. Well, you do. It's got a spiciness to it, really.
It does.
Yeah. I think the bay laurel adds that spicy. Have you ever smelt bay laurel just neat?
No.
I don't think so.
Do yourself a favour. Sounds like Ollie Meldrum, doesn't it? Flavour. So when you come to Tasmania, come to our studio because I'd love to take you through and smell some, really neat naturals and just have a really good time, because sometimes when you smell things or you hear something, you don't really, you can know the smell, but until you smell it neat, it's then when you have it in a perfume, you go, oh yeah, I can smell that, a hint of that. Bay laurel is one of those ones that I use a bit as well in my men's range. So we have a beard oil collection and we have soaps and things. And bay laurel is one of those ones that I use in those because I think it's an absolute stunner that is underrated.
This is a very sexy fragrance. This is date night fragrance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
100% to my nose. And I know we all smell sort of different things when we smell, but this is a florally leather type of fragrance for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got the leather's not coming through too much.
I might
for
be
me.
getting it. I get that a bit from saffron though.
Yeah, but definitely a beautiful floral, but not overly sweet to me.
What do we have in the base?
It's more. I don't think the flowers in it are for the sweetness. I think that flowers add the depth and that gives you that twist that I like in perfume. So when you then start linking up the base notes or the foundations, as we call them, the reason I call them foundations is because they set the tone for how it will be in the long term. So it sets that foundation. It's strong, it's fixating, it gives you that depth. So in what you're smelling with the leather, yes, there is leather in it. There's ambergris in it, but I use an accord of, it's an ambergris absolute actually. So we're not allowed to use pure ambergris in Australia. So we can only use aroma chemical options. So I have an ambergris made by a chemist, which is more of an absolute, and it doesn't have that. I don't know if you guys have ever smelt ambroxan as a synthetic.
Yeah, we have actually.
We have, yeah.
Right. Ambroxan to me, it's great, but I don't use it in very high percentages. I actually use an ambergris absolute, which is not from the real ambergris, but it's an accord made in a lab. And the chemist that makes it does a very good job. And I've got 2 different chemists that make 2 different types. And so I have about 7 different chemists that we work with. And they're smaller chemists, so they're more artisanal rather than the big companies like Gewalden and those ones, because they make the ambroxans and things, Firmenich and IFF and all them. They have some good quality aroma chemicals that we do use. But when I do use them, it's in very small doses, so you're not getting that overpowering ambroxan. So I didn't use ambroxan in this, and that's why you can't smell the ambergris, because it's that more animalic smell of what the pure ambergris has.
Ambergris is probably one of the most well-studied and well-replicated synthetic notes in perfumery, probably well beyond it, being restricted for use, which I still scratch my head about why
Yeah,
that is the case. Yeah, there's no cruelty to animals when using ambergris. It's something that you find, sort of lucky enough, you find it floating in the water. You're very, very rich, but you can't forcefully extract ambergris from a whale. It is extremely rare. It's extremely expensive. When we talk about uber expensive ingredients like rose oil, like oud, ambergris is up there as well, and that's why it's reproduced as a synthetic as well. So we've got ambergris in the base. We've got leather in the base. What else do we have in the base?
I feel like I could smell that a little bit.
Just a little. And then you have your cedarwood and sandalwood. So I think why I like to use vanilla in some, especially a lot of the heavier scents, is because it just does soften some of those rough edges that you get. So I don't make it where you go, oh, that's just got vanilla. I like to use vanilla as a softening agent to some of that real pungent, like patchouli is quite pungent. So when you add vanilla, it takes that rough edge off. So it makes it a little bit softer. I think that was
I think Rouge is definitely the right name for this fragrance. It is, it inspires that sort of Moulin Rouge, sexy. It's a sexy fragrance, isn't it? Date night, sexy fragrance.
My favourite.
There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely a winner.
It's a winner.
Beautiful.
And just one of what in there is labdanum. So I think that balances it off just nicely.
I love that. Again, we're going to have to spend some time exploring all the way through to the dry down here, because I just don't think we could do any of this justice just with the opening notes here.
So we've got two left. We've got Fleur and Vert.
Okay, so
which one?
Is our Cigar Fleur is our floral, so it's spicy floral. So in Fleur, the reason I wanted to have a spicy floral is because there's a lot of ladies who love flowers, but they also like spice. And I wanted it to have that sort of femininity about the flowers, like frangipani and things. But I also wanted it to have that spice for the ladies that like that little bit of that spice too. Yeah, I love it. So it's quite powerful.
Gorgeous.
Oh, that's really nice. What are you getting first?
I definitely get floral start. I don't know which floral exactly. Maybe, I don't know. I could guess. I don't know if it'll be right, but I feel like there might be some honey or something like that.
Do you know what I get? Just before we even look at any notes, and again, probably very wrong, but this comes across, I get a pear smell.
Pear.
I get pear. It's probably not in it, but that's the first impression I'm getting is pear. But take us through, what are we getting in the opening here?
Actually has a little bit of pear in it. But I don't
Well done. Well done, you.
Well, don't feature it as a feature note, because some people go, oh, pear. So what I tend to do is stick to a lot of the notes that people know. And then once again, when we talk to people, that's when we go, can you smell the pear in it, or can you smell the apple in something? Because, I do tend to use different things. I use apricot as well. So in some things, so when you say that to them, don't always go, oh, wow, that's going to be nice. So I tend to stick to the things that people, what they more associate with when they buy perfume. But yes, you're correct. There is pear.
It's yummy, not quite gourmand, but just because of the pear, it's quite delicious. But take us through the opening notes. What have we got there in the opening?
One of my favourites, tobacco flower. So that's got tobacco flower, geranium. It's got a bit of clary sage, but I use the isolate for that. I don't use the real essential oil. Yeah, they're the main notes in that one. I kept that a little bit simpler in the tops with that one.
And what have we got appearing in the heart?
So we do have frangipani, as Macy said. Rose, can you smell the rose? We've got lilac, heliotrope.
It's definitely the frangipani.
Yeah,
that I smelled.
Yeah,
now that you said
frangipani.
it was like, that's what I was smelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the smell of frangipani.
Takes me straight back to Asia.
Yeah.
That beautiful, fresh frangipani smell. Lovely.
I don't know if you guys know, but with heliotrope, there's a lot of controversy at the moment. So we have to use an accord. We actually were growing heliotrope, but the EU have decided in its strange wisdom to ban heliotrope because of the constituents. But the thing is that when they start banning a lot of things, then obviously really great chemists have to become very creative. And this is where I'd like to move into as well when I finish my natural medicine, is I want to start looking at how to make my own healthy synthetics. So when it comes to things like heliotrope, we're going to have to start to be a little bit more creative in how do we produce heliotrope in a safe way. So I've got to chemist in New Zealand that sort of found a nice, safe way to make something that's similar to heliotrope. Just gives it that. Because it is, have you smelled a real heliotrope?
I don't think we ever have.
No, I
No.
don't think so.
Do you know,
If we have, we don't know we have.
okay, well, it's a little purple flower. It's a little, like it's a dark green foliage and beautiful purple flower. But when you smell it, it's one of those things that you go, okay, I know why the creator created aromatherapy, right? It's just amazing to smell the real thing. And when we talk to people, we always show them pictures, and we like to people to have an understanding of what they're smelling in perfume and really get involved with it, because nature is so amazing. But when you smell real heliotrope, it makes you wonder why. But obviously there's something in the constituents that the EU aren't happy with, and they control IFRA. So we always have to, even though we're not that heavily regulated in Australia, perfumers still try to work within the limits of what IFRA recommend, just so that you're keeping on the safe side. So heliotrope, unfortunately, is going to be one of those that's going to be banned eventually in Australia.
Yeah, because it's in a lot of fragrances,
lot,
isn't it?
yeah.
So that's going to be a huge challenge, I guess, to, as you say, replicate it in some form.
Yeah. So we still have a little bit that we use, but it's in an accord, and then we can't in the future, once they do bring in that regulation, we won't be able to use that accord anymore. We'll have to have something made in a molecule synthetic fashion rather than like an isolate type thing. Yeah.
Well, I know that we've got one more fragrance to explore, but this is probably the segue that's opened up here for us to have a little bit of a chat around the use of synthetics versus natural ingredients, and just some of the misinformation that's unfortunately being sort of touted out there by people who are selling fragrances off the back of synthetics being dangerous. I guess what's your position on the use of synthetics in perfumery?
Our position is we use synthetics where necessary for the prevention of animal cruelty, because it's one of our business ethics, like it's in our ethos, that everything that we do has to be for the prevention of animal cruelty. So musk is always, and now I believe musk is banned worldwide anyway, but you still do get illegal poaching. But we believe that just because something, and this is actually a scientific fact, essential oil is the essence of a plant, not essential for good health. So people need to understand that the TGA and FDA have listed essential oils as a chemical, and they have their own CAS number. So when you have a chemical in Australia, it doesn't matter whether it's essential oil, an absolute, an isolate, or any other synthetic, it has its own CAS number, which means it is a chemical number. So what we have found when we talk to people at the market, we've had people be abusive towards us because they go, well, essential oils are natural and they're healthy. And it's like, no, essential oil means it's an essence of the plant. It doesn't mean it's essential for good health and the maintenance of good health. And that is the big difference. And our position on it is that we use isolates because it's the scent extract. And then I blend the isolates because the medicinal component has been removed, which is often what is toxic. And that is unfortunate, because sometimes when you look at bergamot in its full profile is much nicer than the extracted. Because if you look at the chemistry of bergamot, the coumarins that are in it, they're the bergaptine, and the bergaptine is what causes photosensitivity. If you look at, have you guys ever looked at bergaptine free and bergaptine added, like bergaptine's in a pure bergamot, and then looked at a bergaptine free one? Have you actually seen that?
No.
Okay. So if you have a pure bergamot, it's really quite a dark, it's like a dark citrus. So it's not like orange, it's like a dark orange. And when you smell it, it's got this beautiful profile to it. But then when you get bergaptine free, where the constituents are out of it, you actually get a very light citrus. So they're different. So when you start really understanding scent and you're looking at all the naturals and the profiles, if you get a fragrance accord of like bergamot, it's made into an accord or what you call an isolate, it actually smells quite different to the pure. So you have to be able to get a chemist that can make something that's really close to what you're trying to achieve. And so, yes, when you do have isolates, you do get restrictions in what you can create. So you have to get very creative in understanding how to blend them to get the real, so it doesn't smell like it's fake, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So our position on it is we use everything at our disposal that we feel is within its safe limits.
As that comes back to, it's all about dose. So
Yeah.
there's always safe doses. So if when you understand the science of how the body works, still comes back to the dose.
The body naturally
Yeah.
secretes anything it doesn't feel. If your body is functioning properly, your body will secrete in its own time and detoxify in its own time what you have. But perfume is not meant to be, you're not meant to be drowned in it, right? And this is what I say to people at the market. You don't have 6 or 7 sprays and you put it on every hour. Yes, you're going to have an overload in your body and it's going to be harder for your body to secrete it. If you wear perfume for what it's meant for, then you're not actually having a dangerous overload. And it's no different to people drinking alcohol. If you have the safe limit, there's a limit. If you eat too much chocolate, there's a limit. If you have too much coffee, there's a limit. Everything has its moderation and everything has what it should be having, whether it's food or drink or fragrance.
Absolutely. And it's just, it is a bit of a misconception that just because something is natural, that it is safe, and just because something is synthetic, that it is dangerous. Arsenic is natural, and we're not consuming that.
Rice is probably loaded with arsenic. Naturally, rice, because its processing has a lot of arsenic in it. So,
There you go.
as we say, it's all about the dose of what you have. And I also say to people, when it comes to synthetics, I don't just buy. Macy and I are very, very conscious about what we buy and who we buy it from. So when we buy a synthetic, I've had cheap synthetics brought in so I can compare, and you can tell the difference compared to the synthetics we use. They're very expensive. You use them in micro doses, so you might use a tiny amount. But the reason we use them is to give the perfume some breadth.
Yes.
And just like
Yes.
anything in life, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
varying different degrees.
Yeah.
So,
quality.
yeah, definitely a worthwhile discussion to have.
Mm.
And we'll keep having this discussion on this podcast, because we do see a fair bit of misinformation being bandied around out
Yeah.
there. And it's absolutely fine to have an all-natural perfume.
Absolutely.
And being a natural perfumer, and there are plenty of fantastic natural perfumers that we've had on our show as well. And that's a philosophy. You can have the philosophy of using synthetics, but it's more around the misinformation of saying, well, you shouldn't wear this particular perfume because it's got synthetic materials in it. No, we've got IFRA. IFRA helps to regulate these things, sometimes to quite an extreme that we don't always understand. But
Yeah.
if you are IFRA compliant, you are wearing a perfume that is safe
Absolutely.
to wear according to the regulations.
And also, too, we pride ourselves on the fact that whatever we make, we wear or use. We would never sell anything that we wouldn't wear or use.
Yeah, which is great to know.
Absolutely. All right, shall we round out our broader range? Which one have we got to finish us out?
We've got Cigar Vert.
Yeah, green.
Cigar Vert. Fantastic. I am looking forward to this one. So this is our green fragrance. Ooh, minty. All right.
That's what I get when I first spray it.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
This is
I love
fresh.
this. I love it.
Very fresh.
Yeah, no, it's lovely.
First blast is definitely mint, but even we can only wear this on a blotter here because we're out of skin. It's already evolving quite quickly, even on the blotter here. So what are we getting here in the opening?
Okay, so we have sage, basil.
Yeah.
Can you smell the sage and basil coming through?
The sage I can smell. Yeah,
I get fruit,
yeah,
Yeah.
bit
that's
of
interesting.
not
What
pear
did you
again.
say you got? Fruit? Fruit,
I
yeah.
got fruit like apple,
Yeah.
maybe apple,
Yeah.
Green apple.
Green apple.
green apple.
You're on the fruits today.
I don't know. Maybe I just tuned into fruit today.
Very good.
Yeah. Mint,
See,
apple.
I feel like I'm getting a licoricey
sage.
kind of smell.
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely spot on.
good.
Anise. I put anise
Yeah.
in there. Also, too, when we get down to the bottom, I also use a licorice accord, which is made so it's like an aroma molecule. So I use, it just adds a really beautiful depth.
I like this one a lot.
This one's got your name on
Oh,
it.
yes. Yeah, I like this a lot.
And funnily enough, a lot of men do like this one.
Yeah, they do.
There's a lot of people asking for green scent at the moment. People are loving
Yeah.
greens.
Yeah. I just love the idea of putting this on in summer after a fresh shave, just feeling fresh and clean, and, this is lovely.
Yeah, but it's a twist on a normal green with
Mm,
that licorice, I feel.
yeah. So I mentioned apple, but it's not like overly fruity.
No,
I mentioned mint, but it's not overly
No.
minty. It's just a good, balanced, fresh.
I get so much joy when people try perfume. It just gives me joy to see what they get out of it. Every day of the
Yeah.
week, I can talk to people about perfume. If someone comes up and says they don't like perfume, go away. I'm not interested. But every day of the week, I love watching people try perfume and they banter between each other and they smile and it's so much joy.
And they get closer and closer.
Yeah.
It's like, and then they look at each other and like, okay, love you.
You know what's always going through our minds when we're smelling perfumes, because we've got a pretty big collection, and getting more into the collection, got to fight your way in. And we're always going, could we both wear this? This is sort of the bar for getting into the collection is, if we're going to buy it, we want it to be something that's pretty versatile, and we want to be able to both wear it. And it's the thing, I know that it's clocking through her mind, I could wear this and he could wear it too. I'm doing the same thing. Yep, she could wear this, I could wear this too. And I think I would imagine we're both feeling right now, this is something we would both wear.
But I know that I'll go to sleep, and if it was on my shelf, he's going to be moving it over to his side of it.
Right.
This is beautiful.
I really love it. It's got a bit of rosemary and lemon in the top as well. So it's got quite a few notes in the top. It's quite, once again, it expresses the complexity of how I do my formula.
Yeah.
So what have we got in the heart?
Well, in the heart we have angelica, coriander, green, beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Did you pick up coriander?
Now that you've said it, I've got that sort of soapy coriander type smell. Yeah.
Okay. If that's the coriander that...
Lang
It's
Lang.
hard to differentiate it, but once you've heard the note, then you can
It complements that
start to...
mintiness quite well. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
All right, so we've got coriander. What else did you mention in the heart?
Wormwood.
Wormwood?
Yeah, which is an unusual one to use. I don't use it in high volumes. I use a little bit because it's of the chemical compounds, like the actives. But I do like wormwood. It's kind of a bit herby. Have you not smelt wormwood in its natural?
I think I've had it in absinthe, I'm sure.
That's it.
Wormwood.
Exactly. Yeah. So the green berry absinthe, it's that real herby, wormwoody smell. There's Macy mentioned black pepper and verbena. So verbena is that real lemony.
Lang Lang.
And Lang Lang, the Cananga odorata. So I know you guys have talked to people about Cananga odorata before. The great thing about Lang Lang is it's very versatile. Now, the Cananga obviously is grown best in Indonesia. It's the type of soil and climate. We have 5 pressings of it. So we have the first profile, the second, third, then there's a complete and an extra profile. So I use 5 different profiles of the Cananga to get a different result. So I don't know how much you guys know about that, but when they press and make the absolute or essential oils with things, there's different pressings. So the first pressing of Lang Lang is the sweetest profile. And
okay, no, I wasn't aware.
So if you can get your hands on some, or when you come here, I'll show you so you can smell the differences. But you do smell all 5 pressings are quite different. And when you get to the extra, it's a little bit more greener, even though it's a yellow flower. And the complete profile is quite not as sweet as the first pressing. So the first pressing is the sweetest profile.
Yeah, that's good to know. So this is the 5th pressing, so
This
therefore
one is
it's not
actually the first pressing. Just
first pressing.
just
Okay.
takes a little bit of the edge off having the first press. Just makes it that little bit sweeter.
It's starting to come through to me.
Not very strong, but just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do we have in the base?
So one of my favourites again is the ambergris accord, oak moss. Now I love oak moss. It gives it that greeny, that piney. Yep, piney.
It's a lovely fresh fragrance.
It really is, isn't it? Yeah. What a treat to go through these fragrances. And I mean, we've only selected a very, very small amount of the number of fragrances that are here. What we've actually been smelling today is samples from the Discovery sets that you sell. And I've just asked Robyn if she can grab one.
Sure.
Fantastic. So, fantastic. So this is, I'm just going to pop this up on the screen here. This is the Milano one of the Discovery kits here. So this is our License perfumes.
You get the little book as well, which comes with it, and the gorgeous box with all the samples in, which is just so
absolutely.
well
It's quite a lot of samples, so you can see why we can't go through everything today. And this is just the License. Got the same again for the Cigar Discovery set, a beautiful booklet that explains all of the fragrances, all about Milano. This is definitely worth getting your hands on. This is absolutely beautiful.
I will say the unboxing experience that I had when I received all of the samples in preparation for this podcast was incredible. So you guys just do an amazing job with all the wrapping and, the aesthetic is it's really, really nice.
Thank you.
We've now explored all of those additional fragrances in the discovery set, but
Yep.
there's one special fragrance that we haven't touched yet.
Oh, yeah.
Which fragrance am I talking about here, Maryka and Masey? Which fragrance have we not touched yet that's a little bit special?
Lenro.
Lenro, fantastic. So a bit of a surprise here. We've got a chance here to show off the bottle. So I might just pop this bottle here. So this is Lenro. So this, important to sort of call out here with this fragrance, and I will superimpose this onto the screen so it's a little bit easier to see. This has not been released yet, Lenro.
This one, no. So we've kept we kept it in line with our last, in 2023, we had a limited edition called Lenoir, which was night. And people will look at it and say, oh, it's the same, but it's not. It's a similar label. We kept it in line with our limited edition labels, but it's Lenro, meaning black. So it's dark. So it's a lot more on the night smoky side.
So Lenro is a part of which collection?
It's its own limited edition. So there's only, we sort of were talking about the number we were going to release. And I kind of think we should only release 50 bottles, but Macey said, I think you got enough to do 100. We'll do 100.
Wow. Yeah, they're
I think
pretty special.
Even at 100, you're going to have to probably be pretty quick with this one from what I am smelling. This is an absolutely gorgeous scent. Now, we'll get into the notes in just a moment, but given that this scent is not released yet, what is the release date for Lenro?
The 27th.
27th of November. All right. So that's still a couple of weeks away. Fantastic. So we're going to highly recommend that you keep your eye on the website. So just again, before we get into the notes, is there a newsletter, or do you recommend that people sort of follow you on socials so that they can see this one coming and they don't miss out on the very limited number of bottles?
Yep.
We always do a release. Yeah.
So on Instagram and Facebook. If you follow us there, you'll see we'll have a few days prior to it coming out. Or probably a week or two before it comes out, and we'll just build it up and you'll see the release.
Fantastic. Yeah, you definitely don't want to miss out. So follow along on socials. We'll make sure that we've got some links back from our website to those socials as well, so you can find Milano nice and easily. All right, let's get stuck into the notes. I've been really excited. I've been sort of holding back on this one. What are we getting here in our opening?
Bergamot. Of course, bergamot's your number one. Like, I love bergamot. I never ever get sick of it. And I think it's one of those scents that you see a lot in a lot of perfume, as I mentioned earlier, but it just gives you such a good feeling. It's one of those, when it's interpreted in the brain, bergamot is interpreted as a very pleasant smell, and there's not very many people that actually don't like it. If you looked at the scientific data about bergamot, the majority of the planet, like majority of people actually experience it as something very positive in its chemistry, which is why most perfumers use it pretty much in every formula. And people actually won't tell you they use it when they do.
I've heard it described as the workhorse of perfumery because it is just used so much. So I've got to say, and we haven't gone through all the notes here, but it's not the bergamot that's jumping out for me to start with. It might be because it's on the strip and not on skin, but the very first thing that's jumping out for me is a beautiful cup of coffee. That's what I'm getting.
Really? I feel like I might be getting maybe a bit of a boozy smell.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting, for me, it's the coffee that's jumped. That's what I'm wired into, but that's.
You're tuned in today, so.
I don't know why.
Can you smell galbanum?
How would we pick it? Give us some describing words.
I always think of galbanum as being a little bit resinous, a bit like a balsam in a way. It's a little bit green, but it is hard to describe.
Yeah. Well, I can smell something like that.
Yeah. It goes well with leather. Galbanum is used a lot in traditionally masculine scent.
I feel like it's almost coming a little metallic.
For me, it's a bit smoky. Coffee and smoky for me.
Yep.
I could get that leatheriness.
Yes.
Well, the smokiness is the burnt birch. So we use a burnt birch. We've got a couple of different things we use for smokiness. I have a technique when I use with whiskey, and I'll tell people about this because you can see it in the magazine, but we burn a lot of our herbs in whiskey and then we mature it in that, and then we get this burnt whiskey sort of smell. So we do that ourselves. That's quite fun.
Mm. This sounds dangerous.
Have a fire extinguisher close by.
Yeah.
And then we use some other burnt things like smoked woods and burnt birch. Particularly birch is my favourite that we use. So this one's got the burnt birch in it.
Which is like the campfire. We've heard it described as a
Mm.
campfire kind of
That's right.
ash.
Gives you that
in
smoky
the-
sort of smell
Mm.
that you're picking up on.
This is incredible.
It's a very evolving fragrance, this one.
What?
It's slowly evolving. In the top, there's also
Yeah.
green violet, which just gives it just adds a little touch of greenness to it. I like violet. I think it's a lovely oil to use. It's a beautiful flower. Particularly the green, like the leaf part. And then I don't know if you know what coffee blossom smells like. Have you ever smelt coffee blossom?
I don't recall.
No, I don't think
Coffee
so.
blossoms it's got a bit of a balsamy smell. It's a little white flower. So it's got that like honey, balsam, sweet, like white vanilla sort of smell. So that's in the middle.
Maybe that's what I was describing as the boozy, because it's sort of like a sweetish kind of, I want to say rum, so it's like that kind of rummy kind of.
It's evolving pretty rapidly, isn't it? On this,
It's quite warm in here, I guess.
yeah. Are you getting white flowers?
Yes, there's jasmine.
No, I am getting more the smokiness now.
Yeah.
So in the middle, we
Interesting.
also have some jasmine and oak wood. I use a fair bit of jasmine in perfume as well.
Yeah, I reckon that smokiness that I got was the sort of the coffee that I was associating with the smoke. It's still got a coffee sort of vibe for me. Coffee, smoke with a bit of white flowers coming through. It's really, it's really interesting. And what have we got in the base?
So in the base, actually in this one, I want to talk a bit about evolving notes. So what I use is evolving notes between the base and the heart. So evolving notes help link both of those together. So I use cinnamon, the bark though, because you can use leaf as well. And I use pink pepper.
Yep.
So it just gives it a touch of spiciness, that little added extra with the coffee, because I use coffee Arabica in the base and tonka bean. So I don't know if you can really smell the tonka bean coming through and then there's oud and cedarwood. So once again though, with this I use the more darker oud, so the more I use the absolute of the agar.
It's got a darkness to it. It's
It's the perfect name for it, isn't it? Lenro.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting when we talk about the perfume pyramid and the fact that fragrances like this that are quite complex, that they are non-linear. So I'm getting the coffee, but the coffee's in the base. And that's coming through from the initial smell. I'm getting the smokiness. I think the smokiness we said was in the heart. That was, what was the smokiness again?
Birch, yeah. So it's the birch.
The burnt birch. But that's in the first couple of sniffs. I'm getting that sort of smokiness coming through. I guess it's not quite evolving down that sort of linear path of opening middle heart. And that's what you mean, I guess, with your evolving notes. Is that what we mean by evolving notes?
So when I make scent, I never make it in a linear fashion, which is when in the first stages you said to me, what do I want people to feel when they smell whiskey? It's the same as this one. I want people to feel like it's non-linear. It's not that you smell scent and you go, oh, that's a top, oh, that's a middle, that's a base, that's it. That's not how I want people to smell scent. I want people to go, hang on a minute, something else is there. Oh, that's still a bit of the middle note there. I can still smell that. I want it to be interesting, like composition. I was talking to Macy about this morning, and I said, if you think about music, right, you can have a 2-piece band or a 3-piece band, and you go, they've got a guitarist, a singer, and maybe a drummer. But then you go to a concert and you've got a full symphony orchestra, and you go, right, there's a composer, and there's flutes and recorders, and there's bass, and there's cellos, and there's drummers, the big boom. And Macy said she sees a bass note as a boom of the drum, right? So when you think of our scent is more like a composition for an orchestra, because when you're listening to a piece of music, it moves you because of the different things that are going on in that music. That's how I want scent to be interpreted. Is that you go, oh, wow, there's a bit of zestiness there. Or no, hang on, there's something else there. And I want people to not just go put it on and that's it and walk away. I want them to really get into it and understand that there's more to this scent than just putting it on and wearing it and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and I love personally to be able to smell different things as it evolves on my skin as I'm wearing a fragrance. I think any fragrance lover enjoys that component of it. And I really like that idea. Haven't heard it before, the idea of the whole, orchestration of the composition. Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is an absolutely lovely fragrance. So tell me, it's a limited edition. What tells you that something should be permanently ranged? Is it if that fragrance sold out immediately, would you consider sort of permanently ranging it, or is that just something that you determined to have as a limited edition?
Well, we've
product?
been asked that's a very good question, because we've been asked numerous times whether we could re-bring Lenoir out, and we've got quite a few people who have contacted us and said, "Oh, why can't you bring it out?" And I said, well, we have contemplated bringing out a Lenoir version 2, which would just be Lenoir with a slight twist, but it'll still be the basic composition. And then Macey said to me, "But why can't you just bring it out and have it permanently?" And I said, well, that's all good, but then it doesn't have it doesn't have that kind of like, wow, I want to get it and I want to really enjoy this. Doesn't mean we can't bring it out as a permanent feature. I think with these limiteds that we bring out, it gives me an opportunity to explore and try and make something different that's not part of a collection. So when the L'Essence collection came out, it was like everything had its place and a story. When Cigar came out, that was all spice and the twist. But the limiteds give me an opportunity to do something different that's not within that collection, because we are bringing out some collections in the future, and they will be quite different again, based on, some of it's going to be based on mythological story. And we're actually going to separate them into more masculine and more feminine in these two ranges.
Oh, okay.
We haven't sort of said we'll bring this out permanently, but there's no reason why we can't. I guess it'll be dependent upon, if it's like Lenoir where people say, why don't you bring it out as permanent? The people that bought it as a limited might be disappointed that they bought a limited and now it's something they can always get because it's not got that limited.
Correct. Someone could be holding on to bottle number 1.
Yeah, because they're all numbered.
Yes, we did notice that.
You don't know what that means for the future.
And you've got the first triple O, you see. You've got the first bottled.
Yes, that was amazing.
So there is a possibility in the future that we could potentially have Lenro ranged permanently, and it is an absolutely wonderful fragrance. I hope so. We're lucky enough to have a bottle here for ourselves. So lucky us.
Yes.
Now, we spent a fair bit of time going through that extended range, as I've recommended to our viewers. Please get your hands onto those discovery sets. There's a lot to explore. But we can't forget that we're here to explore whiskey. So we're going to return to whiskey and explore the base. Just before we do, let's return to our perfume pyramid. Now, I know I've spent a lot of time talking about how the perfume pyramid is a basic way to describe the structure of perfume, and that these fragrances don't necessarily unfold in a linear manner, but it does help us understand perfume. So when we think about our perfume pyramid, we're right at the bottom of the perfume pyramid now. So this is the base of the pyramid, and it's the largest section of the pyramid for a reason. And that's because, unlike those opening notes that are very light and very volatile, the base notes are almost the opposite of those opening notes, in which they're quite heavy, they're quite dense, they stick on the skin, and this is often what we're left with for the long term as the notes start to dry down. So, with all of that said, let's have another sniff, and then we can go through what we're smelling here in the base notes.
Yes, now.
All right. Lovely. This has really evolved on my skin. What about yours?
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
A bit more woody in the base for me.
For me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what are our base notes?
Okay, so in this we have cedarwood, and I use cedarwood quite a lot because it's there's different types of cedarwood, but I do use it a lot. It's kind of woody and citrusy at the same time, which is what I love about it. It's quite deep.
Well,
Depending on where you get it from, you can get Texas cedarwood, which is what I use in this one. And the reason I like that one is because it does have that woody depth to it. In contrast to Atlas, that one's nice, and Himalayan, but there's about 6 different ones that we use. But for this particular sense, Texan. There's also Howood. Howood, have you ever used Howood or come across Howood?
no.
Okay.
No,
But you've got to tell us what is Howood.
So
Yeah.
it's traditionally called a Ravensara. So Howood is, you can get Hoe leaf, which is the more green, and the Howood. So when we get it, it's a bit more of the lighter wood. It's not a very dark wood. It's more light. So when you actually decant it, some of the woods that you decant, they can be quite dark in colour, but this is quite light. And it's the same with the Texan cedar wood. It's quite light in colour. We have a Bois perfume in the cigar collection where I use the darker woods. In the whiskey, I kept it a little bit lighter with the sandalwood as well. So as you know, sandalwood's a little bit lighter. It's not very strong in scent, but it's a very good base, a very good fixative. Using it with cedarwood and the hoe wood, it really binds it all together really well, and it gives it a strong, solid base. And there's also orris wood in there, and you can smell that sort of strong orris.
Okay, it gives a nice strong woody base, doesn't it? So it's hoe wood, cedar wood, orris wood, nice, beautiful woody base. I'm still obviously getting those heart notes are still lingering. I'm not sure that they'll will go away, but
Yeah.
nice,
And
nice woody base.
also some amber to soften everything. So amber's really nice. It just gives it that beautiful soft edge. I always, when I think about perfume, is not being too rough. I like it to be, even with the rougher things like vetiver, it's quite a rough smell. Like patchouli, it's a bit rough. That's the best way to describe it. You know, it's that pungent sort of earthy smell. And I think when you get that pungent and earthy, it's nice, but it's nice to soften it off just to give it that, it's a little bit easier on the nose. There's nothing wrong with the roughness, but it's nice to just touch it off a bit. And then there's a Popanax in there. And a Popanax is actually a sweet myrrh. So it's a little bit softer than the general myrrh that is used. There's a lot of different types of myrrh as well. So we use the Popanax, the Middle Eastern myrrh. So that's sweeter. So that's why when I smell it, I can get a bit of a sweetness in the base as well.
Yeah, I get a bit of sweetness on my skin as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you just get that little soft sweetness. And what do you get? When
Yeah,
you
I
smell
get
it?
the sweet.
Yeah.
So is that the impression you want to leave the wearer with? Is just a bit of a sweet ending?
Yeah, exactly. I just want them to go.
And to me, I get a lot of oak.
Yeah, there's oak in
Like
there's oak in it. Yeah, because it's the whiskey we use in, it's aged in an oak barrel. You do get that oak coming through with the whiskey. So remembering there's a lot of nuances in this because I've used real whiskey that's aged in a barrel. And that American oak barrel gives it a whole different edge. And that's something I can't explain. It's kind of like magic that happens in the barrel. And by adding it to the perfume, there's an edge of magic. It's mystery and magic that happens because, as you know, whiskey, it's all about the time and the aging process. So we've got that within this perfume. And that's a little bit of alchemy that happens.
This is an absolutely beautiful, complex scent. And I can completely understand now why you have chosen whiskey to be a really good representation of Milano and your composition philosophy. Thank you so much for taking us on this masterclass. I understand so much more about whiskey, but also about some really unique notes that have popped up both through this fragrance and some of the broader fragrances that we've explored.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I've had such a wonderful experience. It's been so much fun. And I love the philosophy of the brand too. So I'm definitely going to go off and explore some of the things that we've shared today in more detail on my own.
Thank you.
So obviously we've got Lenro coming up for release. I think you said the 27th of November. What else is sort of in the pipeline for Milano?
You can answer that.
Yeah, as you probably know, we were featured in Australian Geographic magazine. So we're bringing out a limited edition Tasmanian perfume. And that's pretty much everything that I've grown on this property. So it's very unique. And so that's coming up either end of this year, early next year.
26.
No, sorry, not
end of 26.
End of 20.
Okay.
No, it was meant to be the end of 27, but we're going to bring it back because we've had a couple of good harvests. So it'll be the end of 26.
Yeah.
More like a year's time.
Yeah.
We also have a couple of other ranges that we're working on now, moving into 2026 and 27. But we will talk more about that.
That
Hopefully,
we
if you
can't
invite
talk
us
about
back.
just yet.
If you invite us back again, we might be able to talk a bit more about that.
No, we will definitely be bringing you back onto the show. There's just so much to unpack here, and I think we could spend another few hours sort of going through it all. So lots in the pipeline. So for people who want to find the discovery sets that we've gone through today and we've just shown on the program, obviously head to your website. What is your website?
You can find it a couple of ways. If you just type in milano.com.au, you can find it. Or you can even type in the scent of Tasmania and Milano, it comes up, or milano.au. So just with an A.au. So we've got them both linked.
So those people who are watching via YouTube will have that website popping up on the screen now. For those people who are listening either through Spotify or through Apple Podcasts, We'll embed the link to milano.com.au into the description. We'll also have a profile of Milano on our website. If you head to the episode page, we'll have a link back to the website and to the socials through there. So you can get to our website nice and easily. On your screen right now, there'll be a QR code. Simply scan the QR code and that will take you to olfactive.com.au for a nice and easy way to find Milano.
And thank you so much, Macy and Maryka, for your time today.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you.
We
Thank
really
you for having
appreciate the
us.
opportunity. Thank you.
We've had an absolutely wonderful time.
No, we had a great time, and we really look forward to having you both in our lab and walking around our property. So sometime that you're here, you're most welcome.
Fantastic. Sounds like a strong invite for season 2. Heading into next year, doing a road trip to Tasmania. We look forward to doing it.
Excuse. Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic.
So thanks again. And thank you to all of our listeners. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have. If you have, please feel free to leave us a review. We would really appreciate that. Otherwise, we will see you again next time for another episode of Olfactive Melbourne podcast with the sense and the stories behind them. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.